comfortable.
I'm comfortable.
You can lose that, cushion if you don't want it.
Yeah.
Do you want, you good?
I'm good. I'm good. Are you
have
good?
Enough space for your
I
legs?
have plenty of space. Is it all right?
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to lose
This is great. I love this.
You haven't been inside?
I've been in here, but it was usually during gaming time.
Oh, yeah.
This is a different vibe for sure.
Yeah, we kind of transformed this room for this loungy thing.
I like it. I like it. You guys have been doing this pretty regularly?
Every week.
Every week?
Since, I forgot when, November or something though?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had to take a break when we went to Egypt for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
That looked like a great trip. I saw some pictures.
Well, for me, I'm not going to speak for Bill, but I loved it.
I really loved Rome.
I loved Egypt.
Yeah,
and we went to Rome first. Okay.
And I liked Egypt. I mean, it'd be wrong to say I didn't like Egypt. I just refer to it as an advanced level trip.
Yeah.
It's not for beginners.
For advanced skills.
No, that's been on the top of my list for a while to see the
Gosh,
pyramids.
I love it.
Yeah.
And beyond, pyramids are kind of like, but then actually when you go more south, go down towards Luxor, and everything like West Bank, East Bank, and south of Luxor. Oh, actually, south of Luxor. It's
Okay. Well, need to talk to you guys about that some other time.
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Well, anytime. But we can. We have questions for you. So.
Yeah.
Well, you want to officially open?
I should. Yeah. Say hello.
So camera is this way.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Our monitor's over here. So if you want to see if you have something falling out of your face, like I always do, I look over here, but the audience is actually.
Love
here.
it. Okay.
So welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Floridian. Where we talk about, where we speak with people who are impacting Florida, doing something that's compelling in the space and something interesting that's affecting people who live here and what we're doing for businesses.
I was like, that's Kyle.
That's Kyle, that's right.
Kyle Roberts.
So this is Kyle Roberts. He's an acupuncturist and more. He's opened up a new clinic here in Riverside, but he's had other clinics before here in Jacksonville, and we want to talk with him about his process and his growth and what decisions he made along that path that have enabled him to be able to share his talents with us here in Florida.
Well, we want to talk about what you want to talk about, so
well, hey,
that's just like a suggestion.
Absolutely. I'm game for that. That seems to be the center point of my life, and it's where I spend most of my energy is focusing on the clinic. So awesome. I'm happy to talk about that, and then the things that surround the energies that go into the clinic. So seems like a perfect point to kind of focus on.
Great.
Use this time the way we want to use it.
Maybe give us a little bit of background on where you came from and a little bit about how you got your start.
Yeah. I'm from Jacksonville. I was born here, moved around quite a bit when I was young. And then my dad decided to move back to Jacksonville when I was 16. So I always came back here for family gatherings and holidays and that sort of thing. So I feel I'm deeply from Jacksonville and deeply from Florida. Grew up in the culture of Jacksonville and the culture of the South.
Did you know a lot of people who weren't from Florida when you were growing up?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much everybody.
Yeah,
they were from all over the place.
I didn't realize how diverse Jacksonville was and how many people come to Florida until you leave Florida and then you go to a place that's purely homogenous. So, like Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I lived in Colorado for a bit of time and lived in New Mexico for some time and lived in Alaska for some time. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
questions.
Yeah. And I maybe took it for granted when I was younger how diverse and culturally rich Florida is until you leave. But yeah, I grew up fascinated with spirituality and Eastern religion, Eastern philosophy. My mother is a nurse, and she really wanted me to be a Western-trained physician or a Western-trained nurse or something in Western medicine. And it just never really called to me. But shamanism, Indian philosophy, yoga, acupuncture really had a deep pull when I was kind of searching for something to do as a career. Because that's where my interest led. So when I was kind of capable of getting out on my own, that's where my energies kind of went. I was practicing yoga and meditation in my teenage years, and then it kind of like led to the next thing, and Ayurvedic medicine was my first stab at trying to do, I guess you could say, professionally do something in the healing arts.
Well, this is how I actually met you.
Yes.
Through Ayurveda.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit? Well, first of all, maybe explain what Ayurveda is.
Very
lame.
Yeah.
Word.
So ironic.
Lame words?
Well, kind of like
layman's words.
layman. Sorry, yeah, it's like
Not in lame words.
Well, yeah.
I can do lame words as well. I like lame words.
Give us two.
Yeah.
Give us two definitions.
I rarely catch her, and she speaks 3 or 4 languages.
I know. Well, okay, so ironically enough, I started practicing yoga with an acupuncturist, Stan Hubbard, and him and his wife had a brilliant yoga studio in San Marco in the early 2000s, and called Bliss Yoga, and I just I thought they were the coolest people ever, and they were practicing pranayama, breath work, meditation, they're chanting Sanskrit, and Stan just appeared to me as this just like huge mentor. So immediately I latched onto him. He was treating patients all day, every day, at a pretty busy clinic, and he surfed, he did yoga. So I just came to him and I was like, hey, I want to learn acupuncture. And he's like, nah, you don't want to do that. And I was like, oh. And he goes, you want to study Ayurveda? And it was just the word came out, Ayurveda, and I just thought it was the coolest sounding word ever. And I was like, that just sounds so wacky and interesting. And I was working at Midnight Sun at the time in 5 Points, and we had books on Ayurveda, and I just ate every single one of them up, and was totally fascinated with it. It was just such a straightforward approach. It just grabbed me, and so that inspired me to take a trip to India, and there was no better time to go. I was 24, idealistic, naive, just wandering. And I went to India, spent close to 6 months there.
What regions?
No, I just stayed mainly in Mysore.
Okay.
So I found a yoga teacher there, and I worked there for a bit of time. Was studying Sanskrit, more meditation, Ayurveda, yoga asana. And that's when I really was like, okay, I'm all about this practice. I want to know Ayurveda. Came back to the States, still idealistic and, kind of a mess. And I was like, let's go, where's the best place to study Ayurveda? And it was Albuquerque, New Mexico, actually. There's an Indian physician there named Dr. Vasant Lad, and I locked into his program, and that guy changed my life. It was like, okay, this man lives Ayurveda. And it was so bizarre that he lived in Albuquerque. And it was just like the institute was right across the street from a Church's Chicken and a Ross Dress for Less. And it was just like the juxtaposition was so weird.
Right.
Here we are studying this ancient Indian tradition, and and you walk out of this portal, and then you come out and it's just like the desert.
So
it's mainly where Bugs Bunny always takes a wrong turn.
Yeah.
I have like 2 questions about Vasant Lad. They moved, right? They're now near Nashville.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Asheville.
Asheville, North Carolina. Yeah.
And doesn't he also have another Ayurvedic institute in India?
Yeah. I would say it kind of is under the same umbrella, so you study with him.
Sounds about right. Asheville, Albuquerque, and India.
No, so New Mexico is closed. They moved to Asheville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But can you explain very briefly what Ayurveda is?
Yeah.
In case
So, it's important to define the word, because it's an ancient Sanskrit word, and it's 2 words, Ayuhu, which is the Ayur part, and that means life, and then Veda, which means the sacred knowledge. So it means the science of life, or the sacred knowledge of life. In practice, it has been understood to be the science of longevity. So it deals with maintaining harmony, balance, health, and wellness, and sustaining the life to an optimal distance, so that you're not riddled with disease and imbalance. It also has a psychological element to it, where it is trying to endorse dharma and swasta in an individual's life. And dharma means a purpose and responsibility, an individual pursuit towards truth. So there needs to be reason to exist. And swasta is another 2-worded name. Swa means the self. Sta means establishment. So it means to be self-regulated, and that's my own personal kind of interpretation. But it has been commonly known to be self-establishment. Mm-hmm. So Ayurveda is intending to develop health for someone on all levels so that they can perform their dharma, their purpose in life, and to achieve a self-establishment, a confidence in their personhood. So I went deep into that, and I still am. And I lectured, that was my kind of path to go see the world. I wanted to see it. I wanted to go everywhere. So I anywhere that would have me to do a workshop, I went. And for probably a good 8 years, I didn't stay anywhere longer than 2 weeks. I don't know how I did that, but I literally was always moving.
How did you feel from Ayurvedic standpoint doing that?
Oh, it was definitely an imbalance, but I was doing my dharma.
A lot of vata.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of vata.
I can feel you on that. Sometimes you got to go walk about.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to go.
I had to do it. Yeah, and I'm glad I did. I wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
Wow, 8 years.
Yeah. I would come here to Jacksonville. And do workshops here, and maybe this is where I would spend most of my time on break. But then I would regroup and find another series of classes to go, and then get back on the road. It was too many things I wanted to see and do, and multiple trips to Europe and Central America, South America, Canada, all around the States.
So were you seeking out locations where you can give workshops, or people were looking for you, or it's kind of like...
It was both. It just kind of would chain react,
Were you primarily focused on sharing knowledge and learning? Was that an exploration for you?
Both. Yeah, I had a batch of workshops that I enjoyed teaching, and certain locations would have a proclivity to certain subjects. So I would focus more on a physical dimension for some places and more on a pseudo-spiritual energy breathwork thing on another location.
Why did you call it pseudo-spiritual?
Well, it's not a dogmatic religion, so it's kind of what the individual would create, you know.
But it's still spiritual.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's spiritual, but I would say, pseudo in the sense of it's what the individual creates, So
it's not like an established...
It's not an established religion, and I want to differentiate that, Hinduism and Ayurveda gets very closely entwined, and and as Westerners, I want to separate this kind of like, well, I'm becoming a Hindu.
Right.
And Dr. Laud was very much into being more of who you are and recognizing your own ancestral lineages. So your spiritual practice has to be what you create. And that's what I kind of, maybe saying pseudo-spiritual maybe degrades spiritual, the word spiritual. But, I find that, you have a choice to be nihilistic, which, good luck if you want to go that route, or to pursue purpose. So you could wake up here and be like, there really isn't any reason for any of this to be here.
And purpose is infused, and nihilism is elemental. So you can break things down into their elements, or you can be putting them back together.
Yeah.
But if you're frustrated with one, try the other.
Try it. Yeah. I don't claim like this is the way. You have to find your own method.
Well, I think a similar one is Tantra, and I think that's what Nagak Chagyam kind of exemplifies living. I recently saw that he was living in London. Was it somewhere near London or Britain?
Britain, yeah.
Britain. Yeah. But and I just thought, what must that be like being a Tantrika living in Britain?
Oh, yeah.
And it's quite, fascinating, really, and because you do follow your path, and he has these like ties and things that are quite elaborate.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think of a Tantrika, having these or dressing like this. But when asked about it, he said, "Well, I want to make people happy, so I'll do this." And then it's very simple. It's so funny that for me it's complicated. Why are you doing this? Why aren't you giving away all possessions? And that's a possession. And why do you have this bedazzled thing. It doesn't befit.
Oh, that's right. He has like pretty funky clothing
Yeah.
selection.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's-
just
it
remembered.
And he's like, well, I live here. This is my path. And living here, if I dress like a monk, I'm going to make people think like, oh, sad.
But
Yeah.
I
But
guess
if I
it's
dress
also
like happy-
staying truthful, right? To you, like if
Yeah,
that's your
well, Tantra developed as, I don't want to speak too sternly on this,
Right.
that this is because it's hard to put it into a box, but Tantric, in a way, developed as a big fuck you to the orthodoxy of India. And much like the Protestant Reformation in Europe. And Tantra, kind of gets defined two ways. One, it means to weave. But Tantra also means a book. And so back in the old days, it wasn't like I'm a tantrika. It was like, okay, what tantra do you study? And it would be a series of practices or a goddess or a god that you kind of align with and you worship. And you're like, okay, I do that tantra. So Ayurveda was very closely connected with tantra because it starts to elaborate upon the chakra system, other subtle energy forces, and cultivating a spiritual charge within. And Ayurveda practitioners didn't space themselves away from other religions and other caste members. So in India, it gets really chiseled up with who you can interact with and who you can marry and what you can do. So the Ayurvedists were alchemists and magicians and spiritual warriors on a whole nother level, and they interacted with all of the communities, and they were kind of looked down upon. But Tantra definitely influenced Ayurveda and vice versa, very, very much so, because of these kind of like unique approaches to life. And
I never knew that before, but that feels intuitive.
right.
yeah,
And I think maybe also the aspect in both in Tantra and Ayurveda, the attention and respect for the body.
yes,
That you want to nurture, you want to be healthy, not just neglect right?
Yes,
Like
yes.
asceticism was never, it's not. And as your vehicle of fulfilling your goal, your purpose, right, in this plane, in this manifestation, so to say.
yeah. So Tantra, is very elaborate as well. I mean, it influenced Tibet and Buddhist Tantra and all throughout India. And there was a system called Kaula, which meant clan or people of the earth. And as a kind of a pioneering path went forward, and again, I don't want to say this is exactly the defining terms of the path or the approach, but there was two words that kind of clarified their position, and one was apotheosis, which is you become the god. The source of reality is within you, and you need to awaken that, and you have a spark that can start to really brighten. So by recognizing that you are the source, that you are a star, and that you are the supreme reality within, needs to be awoken. You don't rely upon someone else for your salvation, like the priest. It's within. And then the second is antinomianism, which is to go against the grain, to go against the social norm. So that means to decondition yourself. This is who you should marry. This is how you should act. This is what a spiritual person should look like. This is how you should talk. This is how you should eat. And it was like, no, walk your path. Be who you are. Don't try to pretend something that you're not. And sometimes that requires you to go against the grain. And so if someone, it's like, this is what that person should look like. They shouldn't act like this. Therefore, they're not spiritual.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's an easy trap to fall into because the brain just wants to make associations all day long.
True.
So it's indolent. You can fall back on using this and saying to yourself, "Oh, but I'm really using my brain."
Yeah.
And I guess you are, but you're not using all of your cognitive process.
Yeah. I've been fascinated with Tantra for many years, and I think it's largely misunderstood. In the West, we tend to think of it as sex magic, and in India, they tend to think of it as black magic. And both have a little bit of truth to it, but it's largely misunderstood.
And it's so complex.
It is.
It's just the knowledge you have to be. I don't know if they have the same like gurus within Tantra, but to have that even like a mentor or a teacher, you just the extensive I don't know, volume of knowledge and history and all those like systems and subsystems you need to know was absolutely.
It's important to have a teacher.
Have to actually prove themselves. It's one of the few groups of people that the religious leaders, they have to actually demonstrate practical magic in order to be one.
Yeah.
And it's very peer reviewed.
True.
True. It is because it's other. You said it correctly. I say it very Floridian. Can you say again? I pronounce as tantrika is properly said.
Oh, tantrika.
Yeah.
Yeah. I again, I'm not a great Sanskritist, but they have 52 letters in their alphabet, and we have 26. Yeah. So, the subtleties with how the A is pronounced. Yoga is a good example. It's a short A. Yoga.
And that was an easy one for me. Yeah.
Yoga. But with Ayurveda, it's a long A, and then a short A. Ayurveda. So, but Tantra is just a short A. A lot of people call it Tantra.
We're better with Ayurveda than my comrades in Europe. In Europe, they can't do that sound, so they got a all.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, and you get to Canada, and then they call it Ashtanga. It's called Ashtanga. But that's funny. We're all. It's a dead language. There's not too many people speaking Sanskrit outside of ceremony and ritual.
I like it.
But I feel like it's spread out into like even like in the Eurasian.
Yes.
Like even in Russian, just because it's like my native language, you can trace some roots.
Absolutely.
Especially of curse words, interestingly, to Sanskrit.
But you can go down a rabbit hole of the development of Sanskrit and how the Vedic culture developed.
Even like mom is part of Om.
Mater. Mater is, the name mother in Sanskrit. And so partly why the Germans were some of the first to start to make translations of the Upanishads and the early Sanskrit text, because German and Sanskrit are very closely linked and related. So, you could definitely go down deep rabbit holes on how these cultures developed.
Very fascinating.
Yeah.
I do find it fascinating, mainly because babies already tend to speak like this. And there's a really interesting studies that I read about, like, babies on their own go like, mom, 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 and they make this sound with their mother, and then they also tend to do a da, da, da. Yeah. And it's so fundamentally ingrained that we've even seen similar tones now in animals. Since more research is being done in animals, most mammals appear to have the same linguistic set, implying that the tone has meaning beyond species.
Okay. I dig it. I dig it.
Let's go back to you.
Yeah. Well, Ayurveda really was a fascinating thing, and I spent many years traveling and teaching, doing that. And and it was largely because Stan was like, go do Ayurveda. And Dr. Lott inspired me. And but I should say, I always felt, even when I was in the first year of Ayurveda school, that I was going to do acupuncture. I just couldn't shake it. And my family really wanted me to do it. And it was funny. It would be like a joke. My dad was like, "Oh, you would have been a great acupuncturist." But
so what? I kind of admire your not loyalty, but like just submission to what Stan said. Like, no, instead of acupuncture, you don't want to do this. Do Ayurveda. Did he explain?
Well, it was the perfect recommendation for where I was at that stage of life. I honestly look back, and I don't think I was ready to study acupuncture or Chinese medicine at that time. Ayurveda, the way it's taught now is it's more allegorical. There's more flavor to it. Chinese medicine is very strict,
Mm-hmm.
and the spiritual dimensions are very kind of cold, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as endorsed as much as it is in Ayurveda. So when I got to acupuncture school, traditional Chinese medicine school, it was very much, you're in college, and it was very academic, and the spiritual dimensions are more of your own personal enterprise. So when I was traveling a lot, I was just, like we were saying earlier about it's hard on the body, traveling as much as I was traveling, and it's like I need something more clinical, and something as simple as back and hip pain. I needed to address certain conditions that people were coming to me for, that I was just counseling on. And I said, I have this beautiful practice here. It's not complete yet. And I finally got to a year. I was like, if I don't do it this year, I'm not going to do it. I was about to I've been procrastinating this for so long. I either do it or I don't. And it was the best decision I made. I really, it was the perfect time. Went back to school in 2018. And you're in school for about a year and a half until they allow you into the clinic. And we were set to go into the clinic April of 2020. Yeah, so I was like, oh my God. So
you were delayed for almost a year.
Well, we were doing Zoom consultations with people. And I'm like, oh man, I spent so many years doing this already with Ayurveda.
Right, yeah.
And our clinic opened actually that summer at Dragon Rises, and we started to see patients for the first time around that summer. And my work prior to COVID would have been annihilated. Traveling and teaching workshops and being on planes and going, it would have been. So during COVID, I was in my cave studying, preparing for my board exams. The clinic was open, so we were seeing people under a strict protocol, and and when I graduated and finished my board exams, it was the big chunk of the worst had already passed, and I was able to open the clinic here in Jacksonville.
Was it difficult, the board certification?
I'm not a test taker. That doesn't come naturally or easily to me. Some people can fly through them with no problem. For me, it really was a test of a lot of doubt, and to me, it didn't come easily or naturally. Really glad that I passed them. Some people don't. Some people do not pass.
Percentage?
I don't know the percentage. But there are some people.
Can you retake?
You can retake, and you can pay to retake.
Interesting how much we lost in the difficulties that occurred because of COVID. I was just thinking, here you have a path and a journey that you've planned for so long, and like many paths now, you've got a rather large hurdle. Yeah. To overcome. Yeah. Right as you're about to, I'd say, reach the a key point. Not the end for sure, but a key point in this journey where I'm excited to eventually get to the new clinic that you
Let's get to the clinic.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. When I was in school, you're either in class or in clinic. And so you have your clinic days where you're treating the public in Gainesville. And
it's in Gainesville.
Well, that was where my schooling was.
Okay.
And when I was opening my space, I would be dropping some things off at the clinic, and I just kept on with the word "the clinic." So the word "clinic" has been the name of my space where I treat patients and work with people, and it just I enjoy calling it that. It's very straightforward, and it's a space that we could discuss mental emotional issues. I'm by no means a therapist, but there is a very counseling aspect that arises where we discuss aspects of life.
Is this traditional to acupuncture?
It's hard to say. There is a component that addresses something called the Shen, Shen, and that's the mind. And the mind can be thwarted with certain energies from different organs. So it states that the internal cause of disease is poor emotion. I find that to be very true. Some people will come consistently to work on a symptom. That symptom will go away, and then we uncover deeper emotional states that need to be addressed. It's much harder to heal because it's deeper. But there's a big mental emotional component to the clinic, and then there's an enormous amount of physical things that I like to address, and people come to the space for fertility, women's health issues, headaches, hip pain, back pain, neck pain, digestive issues, acid reflux, Crohn's disease, IBS.
Wow.
And
so are you naming those in the popularity is not around right term, but like
common
in the
symptoms.
Are those in order?
those in order of like.
What's funny, things kind of come in waves. I don't know how that is or why that is, but it seems like there'd be a stream of hip pain patients that come in, and then there's a stream of...
Probably because when you do a good job, their references, people probably tell people more than you know.
I hope that the space continues to grow and expand. So I'm located now in 5 Points in a building called The Portal, which is an association with Midnight Sun. So I don't know if you guys have...
I saw it. It used to be actually a doctor's office.
It used to be a doctor's office way back in the day. And The Portal it's really been the perfect place. So there's...
It's the one that's painted on the outside.
Yes.
There are tarot readers, psychics, counseling.
So are they like, they all have their...
we have our own rooms, so I use Ayurveda and acupuncture, herbalism for my approach.
Do you guys kind of like cross-refer?
We will. The space is still fresh. And,
it's okay.
When did you open?
It's been about 3 weeks to be there. Yeah, prior to that I was temporarily in Saluna, which is also in 5 Points.
Right, yeah. I like
so if you're in 5 Points, Riverside, the building with the cool mural with the raven on it. That's where Kyle is. You can make an appointment, but you can also check his web link, which is below, and make an appointment with him for acupuncture or any of the other. What else do you provide other than acupuncture then?
Well,
it's hard to write it because I've been treated by you, so it's never like just one thing.
Yeah,
like
that was always my issue. I was just kind of plagued with this endless curiosity of strange things, and that my career was never really driven by work, but it's a necessity for some people, and I needed to do something. So, Ayurveda was the main pursuit, and within that, I taught a lot of pranayama or breath work, and also kind of this as a side study. Astrology has been a big fascination of mine.
Oh, that's right.
So I've worked a lot with astrology over the past 20 years. And trying to cultivate a better style and technique with that, and that has not been a thing that I like to promote very strongly.
You don't like to promote very strongly?
I let it be strictly word of mouth, and sometimes I get an influx of a lot of clients with that, and then sometimes
what kind of astrology?
Vedic astrology.
Wow, that's
so that's been a component. With acupuncture, there is strong herbal dimension, so herbal medicine. If it requires it, cupping. Cupping is a thing that I will utilize.
You had cupping for Kyle, right?
Yeah.
So both Alexandra and I have been to Kyle, and that's what encouraged us to have him on the show. because both of us found great benefit. So
Yeah.
Can I ask about the herbalism? Do you make your own like blends and tinctures or?
No, so with Chinese medicine, there is Materia Medica. There's a pharmacy of certain formulas that are specifically made for specific conditions.
And
So,
it's like in America, and you order it from there? Or?
yes,
Okay.
yes. The herbs are imported overseas, as is most Ayurvedic herbs. And there's actually, it's pretty strict on how these medicines come in. So they are legit and clean. And
I learned a bit about this when I was very interested in salvia.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to get salvia because it's
It
not.
is.
It's only cultivated by monks.
Yeah, I didn't know
The
that.
lineage, the lineage itself, people grow it.
Okay.
Anybody can. It's not difficult to grow or
Yeah.
anything. Anybody can grow it. But the lineage has been preserved by monks. So it's not something that you can get all versions of easily anywhere.
Okay.
And most versions of salvia are ornamental.
Yeah.
So,
What does it do? What are the
oh my
properties?
goodness, it is an
Yeah.
unreal
Yeah.
psychedelic. It is so
psychedelic.
strange.
Yeah.
Should have been expected from Bill.
Yeah. I mean,
Bill is interested. Has something to do with psychedelics.
Yeah.
I mean, as somebody who's done hundreds of types of psychedelics,
Yeah.
it's one of the strangest because it just, like, dimensions go away.
Dimensions like your bodily perception, dimensions of
Like,
the
you
space.
perceive other dimensions, quite literally.
Oh.
The dimensions you're currently perceiving will frequently collapse into one other dimension, and then you start seeing other dimensions, like more than time, space, length, width, height, and depth.
Yeah.
It's so surreal. Whatever's going on is actually going on. I was with a friend who couldn't smoke a cigarette because they were as thin as a card. And when they would try to smoke the cigarette, it would pass their mouth every single time because they were infinitely thin in that dimension. They couldn't hit it anymore.
That's cool.
It was insane. And I was just laughing hysterically because it was the funniest thing I'd ever.
Was he like in this dimension? Was he also having a problem?
Yeah.
Lighting up a cigarette?
Yeah.
Did he like know why?
Like, you would see him the same. You would see him, like, in this dimension, not able to smoke a cigarette because he
smoke a cigarette.
couldn't manipulate his body because what we were all seeing was that this dimension was infinitely thin.
What a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you couldn't connect something. It was so surreal. It was. I've never done a drug like that in my life.
Herbalism. Yeah. I was like, how did you land on this subject?
Yeah.
Well,
And you got to get it from certain places because I tried a lot of different types of supposedly good salvia, and I was like, this does nothing.
yeah.
There's nothing. And then suddenly I was like, oh, this does something.
Well, Ayurveda has a great line in one of the texts. It says, everything is medicine, and everything is poison.
Yeah, that's right.
So, there's a medicinal quality within everything. You just have to know how to use it.
Right.
So something like salvia, it really had a kind of its heyday back in like 2005, 6, 7, something like that. And there was kind of, everybody was a little unaware of what it was. And then it was stories like this started to arise.
There were
people thinking that it was
some
something
people
like marijuana.
were a little bit responsible for that.
Yeah.
Some people had labs.
Oh, yeah.
Some people got permits and opened up labs because some people were on probation.
But you said like you can't grow salvia.
No, you can't. That's why I had to. Well, I couldn't grow it fast enough for my consumption rate because I also was concentrating it 20 times.
Yeah.
So I would extract all the indoles out of the plant and then
I see.
reconcentrate them back into the plant. So you'd get these little bits of dried powder that if you smoked like weed, you'd put it in a bowl and smoke it.
And then you're gone.
And just
Some people weren't ready. A lot of people weren't ready. I would say most people weren't ready for what it wants to show you.
Yeah.
And you gotta.
And it usually won't. It often just does nothing also, which is why so many people sell salvia that does nothing, because frequently it can do nothing. It might do nothing, and then just the curtain gets pulled back.
Wow.
And they're like, here, enjoy that.
That's interesting. So is it like, does it depend on the person? If a person is ready for the
I don't know what it
opening?
depends on, and I've used
or
it
the quality of the
hundreds.
plant.
I can't be sure, and I've tried it hundreds and hundreds of times.
Wow.
And all I can say is that when you it definitely works way better if there's some darkness. Because
like in the room, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Because I've taken the same extraction.
Darkness in the person?
No, Batman.
What kind of darkness are we talking about?
No, go into the bathroom, turn all the lights off.
Yeah, truly.
Light up. Yeah.
We found it was more light dependent and more but we think it's not, me and a few people that did this a bunch, that it's not so much about because light disturbs it, but it's because if you're in balance, if you're not distracted, because you can easily on salvia just do something else and just will go away.
It's very short-lived. Yeah.
As soon as you it's like a dream. As soon as you pay attention to anything else, it'll just stop.
Mm-hmm.
So which is also very strange because most psychedelics are the opposite. Most psychedelics are like, you can't think straight now.
Yeah.
I'm going
and
to take that
in for the ride for a while.
Yeah. And this one is like an innuendo.
Elusive cat.
It is. It's very. So if you just go and you're alone in a room that's quiet and dark. Yeah, then you're more likely to have an impact.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking you're going to have a good time at a party, plan on disappointment because it probably won't do it.
A lot of people did the wrong turn on that. Yeah, they're at a party thinking that it was something like weed, and then they smoke salvia, and then they get freaked out. There's definitely a lot of people freaked out on salvia.
Yeah.
But
I could see where if you freak out, you'd also get a little outside of yourself, and then it also could take an impact. I could see where that would work that way too.
Yeah.
But if you're just like going on about your day, you wouldn't even notice salvia. But if you suddenly allow it, what you see is real, and it's intense.
Well, well, that kind of is like, let's go back to the portal.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a good segue because portal opening dimensions.
Yeah, there we go.
Because we talked about Ayurveda in detail, can we also actually talk about what acupuncture is?
Yeah, so, Ayurveda is definitely the first love, and it really got my life moving in a direction to work with people, to teach. And like I said earlier, I really desperately wanted something that I could address right then and there, something very clinical.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I noticed since you started, when you were traveling and you needed something very specific to help relieve even your pain, you kept doing this. And I'm just imagine you were thinking you're holding a needle.
I don't know. It just it naturally happens.
Yeah, no, it's kind of it's a nice observation.
I always thought it was just such a fascinating form of medicine, and it has its limitations. I'm not going to say that anything can do it all, but it can do so much.
How do you know they're not just your limitations?
Well, it might be. You're right. Yeah, it might be. But something's going to happen, when you come in for acupuncture.
Yeah.
Rarely is someone so inert that they don't feel anything.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a much deeper issue. But I wanted something that was clinical, that I could address. And Chinese medicine is under doesn't have a name like Ayurveda, where Ayurveda it defines the entirety of the practice. So there's just so much that has evolved over the years with Chinese medicine. So we can't really say it's Chinese medicine because Korea is involved, Japan is involved, Taiwan is involved.
In acupuncture.
Yes, so these other countries help evolve.
And I presume you mean historically because
yes.
Now everyone's involved, I think, right?
So, Mao, during the Great Leap Forward and the catastrophes that he created, he wanted to systemize the medicine of traditional Chinese medicine, and henceforth came traditional Chinese medicine. Now, I'm no Chinese historian, but a way of teaching this form of medicine came forward. So it's very much a straightforward way of looking at reality, a way of looking at health, and how to look at individuals. So it starts with what we all see as yin and yang. Everybody typically calls it yin yang,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I don't speak Chinese, so but it's the closest I can get is called yin yang, and this is a dual system that everything is in a polarity. There's some hot and cold, heavy, light, dry, oily, and yin yang is in constant harmony with one another. And Chinese medicine is aimed at bringing balance with the yin and yang forces within the body. And we can see conditions that are yang deficient, which means the yang energy has gone down, and the yin expresses itself adversely. Or we see things where the yin becomes deficient, and that creates an imbalance. So it's a great balancing act using the needles and herbs to bring balance back into the individual's life.
And am I correct that its acupuncture method is very strictly regulated by the meridian system?
Yes. So we have, which is, we hear yin and yang. We've seen the supreme ultimate. We've seen that a lot. And then a common word that we've all heard is qi. And qi is basically our electrical force, our life force. It's an energy that moves through the entirety of the body that is going to regulate the system so it runs optimally. And the needle stimulates the qi to move through the channel. Now, the channel are these kind of pathways within the body that is going to make an interwoven network that makes the body a coherent whole. So when we say the gallbladder channel, it's not like we're just talking about the actual organ itself. We're talking about the entirety of the channel as it moves throughout the whole body. And these channels relate to one another in unique ways.
How often do they overlap with the nervous pathway?
Well, they are. They very clearly they are. So I'd look more into the dermatomes.
So were these then examples of innervation before we knew what innervation was?
Yeah, I would say so.
But there are way more meridians than there are nerves in the body.
Because the meridians are much more than just the nervous system. So we don't have. This is the difference between Eastern and Western approaches, where the Western approach wanted to quantify everything, and if it couldn't be, then it's outside the realms of science, and therefore it's not real, or it's not, So why God and everything else is not,
We didn't even know what electricity was. The idea that you had electricity in your body would be doubly crazy.
Yeah. Well, the Eastern approaches were very intrinsic, so it worked more on cultivating this inner kind of dimension, and this is why there's more of an emphasis to divination, qi, spiritual dimensions, and so forth. So these channels move through the hands and the feet, the arms, the legs, into the trunk, into the head, and the needle stimulates the qi, which will operate differently on these different points along the body, and it causes a reaction, a change. So my definition of healing is it's a science and an art of causing a change to occur in a person's body or mind to create a beneficial stance, a beneficial state.
And you define what points you're going to stimulate based on the assessment of that particular visit.
Yes. So, if you come in regularly and you've seen me, it's like the way you walk, the way you hold yourself, the way you talk, the symptoms that you're wanting to address, the way you hold yourself, and then I feel your pulse sometimes. Look at your tongue, and then I got a picture of what I want to work on. And there are specific points that are used to address specific patterns, or a pattern could be a diagnosis in Chinese medicine. So what I'm trying to do is use points that are most beneficial for you. And I see them like friends, liver 3, which is going to be on the top of the foot in between the big toe and the second toe, is going to create a certain reaction in someone. It's a very common point, so I use it every day with patients. And that's something that I wasn't able to do with Ayurveda, that I always knew I would have the ability to when I moved into that. is that this point is going to make this person feel this certain way. And the challenge for me as a practitioner is to utilize the correct points to generate a change or a response that's going to be most beneficial to the person.
I wanted to say earlier, just because I have to reprise my ironic joke about human limitations, that I very much appreciate that you've brought two hemispheres of a very difficult science here to us locally in Jacksonville, and I think that was the great. For me, it was what inspired me to come and to try it out, and I think it's rare that somebody takes is able to combine this a certain analytical approach, which I feel that I need, because I come to the table, to be honest, with a natural skepticism with many things.
It's important.
Yeah. Anything I haven't experienced yet, I come skeptically to.
Yeah.
And I gotta say that I was so amazed that it caused me to come home and do a bunch of other research on acupuncture.
Oh, cool.
And so I very much appreciate that.
Oh, great.
Now Kyle is like a stone throw away.
Yeah.
Very close to us now.
Yeah, right there in 5 points. Yeah.
I had a question about so practical question.
Yeah.
If, let's say, it's a brand new person never was exposed to acupuncture, what's, let's say, a recommended minimum for a person to start with in terms of sessions?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard. Because sometimes I've seen this with people with 3 visits, all of a sudden it starts to open up. Or 4 visits, and then all of a sudden it starts to open up. And I want to be a one-stop shop. So a lot of people will come to check in once a week, and they will come for years like that. And it's like it's a moment that they look forward to, and they're able to tune the instrument back up.
Yeah, it's so weird. I was about to say the same thing. Anyway.
Yeah, it's just like that.
Yeah.
You play the instrument, you need to tune it regularly.
Yeah.
So therefore it's this balance thing. So answering the question is, you could come in once a week indefinitely. Now for a new person, I really try to aim for 6 visits to see if it's your thing or not. Come for six visits, and just naturally with life, it's not like it's going to be the thing that you come to every week.
Right. And then just maintenance.
So then it's like, okay, I'll come back and work with you on this, and then at another time. So I'm always there. There are a group of people that just, their friends said, you got to go check out acupuncture, and they show up, and they come for one, and they're like, oh, okay, and then they go off. So I'm there for everyone. And I aim to be as available as possible, and to address anything that the person might have an issue with. But I do try to suggest at least 6 visits before you make a definitive answer on if you should stay or go.
How long is
that's what you suggest for the skeptics like myself.
Yeah.
People should try 6 visits and see if it had benefit at that point. And if not, it still might have benefit at another point in your life.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I
like salvia. You don't know when it's good up on you.
I sometimes this happens as, this is, someone might come for, let's say, nausea and vomiting, and that they kind of have a morning sickness and a queasy stomach, and their Western doctor doesn't know really what's up. There's nothing clinically wrong.
And then after they give birth, it's fine.
Well, actually, these would be not pregnant people.
I'm just kidding.
But I see.
The doctor doesn't know what it is.
Yeah. And we sit down, and there starts to be this emotional thing that comes out. And it's there's a deeper emotional component. And we're using a formula, and we're using herbs. And at the end of 6 visits, it's like, the emotional thing is the deeper issue.
Right, yeah.
And it's more problematic. And I check back, and I'm like, well, how are the symptoms of the original nausea? And they're gone. They're not there. So sometimes a symptom will go away, and the person won't even realize that the thing has been fixed.
Right, yeah.
So, as a very technical-based acupuncturist, they're not going to talk about deeper things.
Right.
It's like, back hurts, cool, lay down, treatment goes in. Back is better, great, bye. You know, you have headaches, treatment goes down. How's a headache? Oh, it's gone. Okay, peace.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to be there for someone on all levels, is
Mm-hmm.
to the limits of my scope of practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's why I want to be available for people, you know, at any time.
That's why Wilhelm Reich left was kicked out of the psychiatric field, was because he insisted that in order to really help his patients, he had to touch them and talk to them. He says, I need to be able to physically make a connection, because I have to correct things that are both physically incorrect and psychologically incorrect. He goes, I can't do that if I see a person walking in like this and telling me that they have these feelings and this is why and all I can do is talk to them. I need to straighten them out.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of that notion of that the mind affects the body, and very often, if not always, the underlying reason for any disease is a sort of emotion, a psychological, right? The state of your psyche or trauma to your psyche, that your body just like as a last resort, or your whole system, your whole being as a last resort manifested on a physical level. It's like, hey, attention now here, right?
It's still a better outcome than something else. It only does that to prevent something worse.
Well, this is actually, I would say, like there's this system called recall healing or healing by recalling, and they have as a foundation, they call it pyramid of health. And it's very similar to it, like maybe kind of also it goes a lot of psychosomatic approach.
Yeah.
But basically that your brain's number one function is to keep you alive from this moment to the next. It doesn't think about 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
And whenever the stress, the immediate danger is eliminated or gone, that stress normally subsides and you're like, okay. But if it's a sustained stress, your psyche is like kind of doesn't know what to do. And even if the resolution was comes, it has to sort of dump this somewhere, and it will choose the part of your body that is kind of to sacrifice a part of your body for the benefit of the whole, of the whole system, to keep the whole system alive. And in their system, in the recall healing system, again, certain parts of the body where the pain or disease manifests corresponds to a specific emotion or emotional experience. And it's crazy how they can trace it, like 6 months before, what happened 6 months before, and then 18 years before. And it's just absolutely amazing how accurate it is. I just love this because even when you were saying about how tuning the instrument, I just see all those parallels through different modalities, and I see the beauty of this, that separateness we're finally migrating towards, right? Accepting, and you are a perfect example of that, of using different knowledge, different systems, because they like, not that they're all about the same, but in essence they are all about the same, just different words and different methodology. And it's beautiful how like they it overlap, I guess. On many subjects.
It's just how I see it and how I try to rock it. There's definitely other practitioners out there doing different things. It's your style and your technique.
And things are important, though. You want redundancy, and I like that this is the approach.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you can be influenced. Your influences through your life and makes your style of teaching the way it is, and that's what's most inspiring to me is someone that is purely them, someone who's a real individual and not pretending to be something that they're not. And there's and I'm by no means like a fully integrated person. I have to struggle with my own afflictions, but I want to be on the path to finding greater wisdom and freedom and happiness and so on. But people that inspire me are people that share from the heart and aren't different away from their presentation. Like how are you with me one-on-one as you are in front of a class? How are you like in a situation like this as opposed to when I'm not around and I'm not there. So I think that's when you meet a real healer, is there's the thing that we feel the most is authenticity. And we're humans. We've been evolving for a long time. We know when someone's authentic and when someone's not. And if we haven't been able to figure out what's authentic and not, then you might need to sharpen your discernment blade. And and
that's right.
Yeah,
that's why we actually enjoy doing these shows so much. We realize that we have such a great group of friends that are all doing interesting things, and they and it's very easy to just turn on the camera and talk about it, because none of us are acting like anything different. This is just what we're doing in the moment, and we can share that conversation, and it has benefit, I think, for others because of that authenticity. It makes it easy. It makes it natural for us to be able to do.
Yeah, I definitely hope so.
Yeah.
So, anything you want to share before we close?
Yeah,
special events, workshops?
Well, yeah. I guess this was so great. I was just actually speaking to Midnight Sun, walking by, and saw Bill on the street, and like, hey, let me show you the. And next thing you know, we're walking by, show him the space and everything, and it was really great. So, first and foremost is the clinic space is really launching off great, and the new location at the portal. So come and check out that. Go to my
actual address.
1503 Oak Street.
Oak Street, okay.
Yeah. So
it's very close to 5 Points. It's one block off 5
Lomax
Points
and Oak
towards the river to the east.
Yeah. So to get an appointment and treatment with me, go to my website, KyleBrightRoberts.com. Bright
Link is below already.
Okay, great. Yeah, Bright's my middle name. Not trying to be slick there or anything. So go to the website.
You're naturally slick. You're authentically slick.
It's easy to make an appointment. You just click and follow the link, and it's pretty basic. I have been teaching breathwork for close to 20 years now. Back then it was called pranayama, and then I think the word has become more palatable by calling it breathwork. So
I'm glad that's correct, because I introed last night. I had a strangely large amount of viewers, and I mentioned your show coming on, and I said you would talk about breathwork, so I'm glad I had that correct.
Okay, yeah, breathwork and pranayama almost synonymous, and I've been teaching that for a while, and I wanted to maintain the Ayurvedic offerings that I have, and I fused the breathwork and Ayurveda into a training. So I offer a 5-module course on pranayama, breathwork, and Ayurveda, and we go deep. I don't hold back. So it's a deep immersion. It's 5 modules.
How long is each module?
It's all weekend. So each module is a Friday night, all day Saturday, half day Sunday.
Okay.
And I'm working with the timing, but we just finished. We had a batch of graduates that finished last month, and it was the first group of people going through the program, and they're wanting a level 2. So I'm in the process of creating a follow-up course to the initial course.
That's great reception.
Yeah,
that's awesome. People are like, hurry up and make more.
Yeah.
So come and check out I teach Friday night 7:15 to 8:30, and I teach Wednesday night 7:15 to 8:30 in San Marco at Hotspot Power Yoga. And
you teach pranayama.
Yeah. And we go pretty hard. It's not a walk in the park, but the response has been phenomenal, and people are really loving it. And the course has been really fun to teach. So it's kind of like a yoga teacher training, but for breathwork and Ayurveda. And it's a lot of time together, and it's neat to see the groups come together and form a friendship, and it's something that I've always wanted to share. I teach the whole thing, so that's a blast. So I would love for more and more people to come and get involved with that, and I'm trying to set the standard for some of the philosophy and the practice and the approach of yoga, and what it really represents and what it is, and how pranayama or breathwork is influencing that, as well as Ayurveda. And trying to take my 20 years of whatever it is I've been doing, and just dish it out and offer it to people that want to study with me. So it's a a big project of mine that I love teaching. I love sharing and teaching. So the breathwork course is coming up. We're going to start another level 1 the first weekend of June.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I'll probably offer another one in the fall.
The level 1.
The level 1,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So.
And all the info is on your website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's one.
And you can text me or email me from all my stuff online.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. I love you guys. It's good to
Yeah.
see you. It's been a
Yeah,
while.
we love you too. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming on
Yeah.
the show. And
Thank you.
Let's nourish the bodies. How
Yeah.
about that?
yeah, let's do it. I was thinking during the yin and yang, I was like, "There's a hole in my belly."
I was feeling the same. I'm getting pretty hungry.
Alright.
So
But thank you guys for
Thank you.
tuning in.
Yes.
And
Cool.
Thank
yeah,
you.
thanks. Check out Kyle's website down below.
cool.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you again. So what did you teach this morning? You said.
I